Hey YouTube, welcome back. We've got 2 days to go before the launch of Last Epoch Season 3, and I'm currently doom spiraling. My favorite part of getting ready for a new season or league in any action RPG is being indecisive about what I want to play. You're just going to have to believe me that that's true. I really enjoy being indecisive on this front. So let me walk you through how we decided on playing what I think I'm going to play. Bear with me. It has a good storyline that goes along with it. We're going to play Bleed. But before I tell you that, let's start here. The new primordial items are amazing. I really want to do something that highlights one of these. There are some drop only ones. It looks like some of them you can buy from a vendor. And I'm just going to rely on the fact that I play a fuck ton of this game to say that I can basically get whichever item I want. I don't know how hard it's going to be, but I'm just going to brute force it because I'm going to no life it and put my wife in charge of the kids for the weekend. So we're going to make use of an item that allows us to convert all of our bleed stuff, or most of our ailments, into bleed. So I believe that this pair of gloves here is something that drops from a boss. I don't think it's one of the ones you can drop from that you can buy from the vendor. So this is gonna be like non-trivial. But what this allows us to do is go ignite, frostbite, shock, time rot, dam, poison chance, and convert everything into bleed, and then make use of bleed unique itemization, grabbing random ailments from like blessings, for example, using weird, wacky items that also have more multipliers on them. And then on top of that, it just gives us a little explosion as well, which should hopefully be a lot of fun. So I was thinking about where I wanted to apply this, and it got me thinking about aspect of the boar. So the big change in aspect of the boar, let me pull up the patch notes here. Aspect of the boar. It always granted reduced damage. Now it also grants bleed duration, which is great. Let's pull up a new build planner so you don't see exactly what we're doing until I want to show it to you. In Primalist, Beastmaster right here. So aspect of the boar, if you can see what's going on the screen. It's going to grant us bleed duration, less damage taken, bleed chance, physical penetration. And then we can get it on evade use, and then we can also get it on melee hit if we're being a melee build as well. What this means is that anytime they build something that says like percent increased effect of aspect of the boar, we're getting defense, offense, offense, offense. And I like RF. Everybody likes RF. One of the fun things about building something like Righteous Fire and Path of Exile is that you can just scale both offense and defense at the same time. It's one of the reasons that scaling something like Strength in Last Epoch is really strong. Get offense and defense, you're always getting armor, and you're probably getting some kind of offense as well. Or building intelligence. Intelligence give you ward retention, or maybe something else that goes along with that in the suite of mage things. And then also damage, right? So we're going to build offense and defense at the same time. For us, I was thinking about what I wanted to pair this with, and I've done a lot of build contests in the past. So one of the build contests that I was reviewing the most actually came from a while ago when set affixes were added into the game, and I did a set item contest, or a set affix contest. So people came into Twitch chat, into Discord, into YouTube, and they submitted all kinds of different utilizations for like the new set affixes and like what's the weird quirky stuff that you can do with this. So I dug back through this and I found a lot of interesting ideas, things that I could do with the new unique item, Legends Entwined. This is one of the items that I thought I was going to build around because it's a wildly interesting item, but you can brainstorm that on your own time. But suffice to say, I found this one, and this is from user X Dumped, and it was a really cool idea. They were using strength from the last bear set to get some flat damage with Polaris. And just because I'm talking about it, I want to like kind of shout out their video as well. So this is roughly what their build was doing. They were using the Relic of the Mountain. Let me look it up real quick. Of the Mountain. Soul of the Mountain. And building attunement in order to have a whole bunch of these little veil spirits shooting around their character. So I'm going to rewind the video just to kind of see what's going on here. So there's like a cast speed penalty, but they have a whole bunch of projectiles. This has a ailment penalty built into it. They were going crits, but I think the numbers are sufficiently strong with the bleed, converting everything into bleed, that we can make this work as a bleed version as well. So what that leads us to is something that looks like this. This is a bleed Beastmaster using the Bleed Explosion Conversion Gloves, the Carrion of Creation. And we are converting a bunch of Ignite, Frostbite, Shock, and Poison chants all into Bleed chants, and then pairing that Bleed chants with the aforementioned aspect of the boar, scaling as much boar as we can. The other things that are worth noting before we kind of dive into it is you could take this same idea, and instead of scaling aspect of the boar in your idols, you could scale aspect of the viper in your idols instead. And the aspect of the viper was buffed this patch to give you 20% more damage over time. If I can work it into the character, I think I'd rather put aspect of the viper effect on like a body armor, for example, because tier 7 would give me 20% more damage, but it's also tier 7, and I'd rather have percent HP instead. And one of the things that really appeals to me about the aspect of the boar plus bleed is that I get to scale offense and defense at the same time. So we're going to shoot projectiles, we're going to go pew pew, we're going to have some explosions, and hopefully has good single target damage as well. One of the big highlights of this character is, particularly with the double red ring, but let me flip over to the defensive tab here. This character is extraordinarily tanky. So we have, before we start talking about red ring, this is without red ring, by the way, we have a ton of defense. Obviously, Beastmaster has the damage taken from nearby enemies, minus 16% damage. Aspect of the boar is less damage taken. This is less damage taken. They were scaling aspect of the boar for less damage taken. We're going to have a bear companion next to us. Bear companion has some extra DR built into it, and then 10% damage redirected to the companion, which is not calculated up here. Mantle of the Pale Ox has up to 24% damage redirected. And then we have Summon Bear, another 10% damage redirected into our bear. So we have 40% damage reduction. You can see that this comes from aspect of the boar being juiced up and Beastmaster. If we hit our 180 attributes, which is basically just relying on Blood of the Exile being well rolled, it gets up to 54% damage reduction, because remember, these are all less damage reduction or less multiplicative things. So 54%. And then we also have all of the damage redirected to a companion, which should be 24 max roll here plus 10 plus 10. So 40, wait, 40, 44? I guess 44. Up to 44% damage redirected to the bear. I think this build is going to be just one of the tankiest things I've ever seen. So that should be fun. Yo, get him. All right, so Boar gives us offense and defense, and then some of our itemization there. These gloves are interesting because they allow us to build weird ailments and still scale into one primary source of damage, which is being juiced up by Boar's, all the Boar stuff that we have going on here. So one of the neat things that allows us to do is use Plague Bearer's Staff. I've got 4 LP on this just to brainstorm the kinds of affixes that I have, but I think getting a 2 LP is pretty straightforward. Definitely the first LP that I care about is cast speed, because you really need cast speed here. So this gives us 220 chance to apply poison on hit being converted. And then really the thing that I care about most here is the up to 20% more damage over time against enemies inflicted with plague. So Spirit Thorns, our skill that we're using in the Spriggan Form skill tree, doesn't really have that many more multipliers available to it. We have a 24% more multiplier here. And then we have like some ailment stuff. We have some penetration stuff over here. But really, it's like the whole suite of bleed that should juice this up. So we have between our chance to apply bleed from Aspect of the Boar and from Plague Bearer's Staff, we have some blessings, Ignite being converted. We have Shock being converted. We have Frostbite being converted. We have, I guess if you get a 4 LP, you can go even more stuff there, but I think you need more percent increased damage than this from this thing. But we have a whole bunch of stuff being converted into chance to bleed on hit. It looks like about 850% chance. So we have 4 projectiles, which would be 850 times 4% chance. We have 7 Veil Spirits coming in from Soul of the Mountain. You could get more than this. You can go to 8 Veil Spirits, but that's what the numbers that I'm looking at are. So we have times 7 there. And then we also have a 60% chance to apply ailments on hits. So instead of the Spirit Thorns being the full percent chance, we have a penalty built into Spirit Thorns that you can see right here. 40% less chance to apply ailments on hit. So we multiply by 0.6. What that puts us at is this build, when you right click, it applies about 142 stacks of bleed. which sounds fine. I don't know. It's pretty good. And then another big part of this is because of the patch notes here. Aspect of the Boar is juiced up with bleed duration. So our bleeds, instead of lasting 3 seconds, are going to last about 8 seconds or so. So we should have plenty of single target damage coming in from that front. We have some situational more multipliers from things like, are the enemies moving with Blood of the Exile? But basically our multipliers are like 20 from Plaguebearer's Staff, 20-ish from Spriggan Form, 20-ish from Plaguebearer's Staff. Oh, so 20 from Spriggan Form, 20 from Plaguebearer's Staff, 20 from Aspect of the Viper, generic 20% more damage over time, thanks to the patch notes. And then another like 10-ish% from Maelstrom, which is 1% more physical damage per Maelstrom stack. And we'll have like 10 stacks or so from this thing. So that's what, this could be like 10 or 20 times 20, or 0.2 times 0.2 times 0.2 times 0.1 for our more damage multipliers. But then like lots of duration, lots of percent chance to apply on hit. I think it'll work. Let me show you a rough idea of what the gameplay is going to look like. This is, oh, I guess I already showed you, this is X dumped video. So I guess I can have it running in the background if you want to like kind of brainstorm. Does this sound like the kind of thing that appeals to you? So this is where I get my estimation of having roughly 10 Maelstrom stacks active, because I've seen someone play this skeleton of a build in a very different way before, playing because they were playing crits. So what else is interesting to you? If you choose to go this kind of route, I think the skeleton of the build's super strong, of having a fuck ton of defense, having some really, really solid bleed scaling thanks to Aspect of the Boar, and like leaning into that, having all of your stuff with bleed, along with Carrion of Creation. Like, this seems like a good archetype. This might not be the perfect application of it, but it's going to be what I try first. If this ends up being garbage or mid, or I'm bored and I want to try something else, which is very likely because I like trying something else, the next thing that I would swap to after this would be like basically the same gear, and I'd figure out mana, maybe building like mana regeneration or something, and I would try doing Tornado instead. So Tornado is just like a really good way of applying lots and lots of small hits. I know that people have played like Frostbite, Tornado stuff in the past. And then maybe we can do something along those lines with Carrion of Creation. So this is what I'm going to try. It scratches the itch of like interesting bleed explosions, new items, kind of like some quirky itemization, and has a fuck ton of defense built into it as well, which makes me excited. So unless I change my mind in the next 12 hours, which is always possible, this is going to be what I start with on August 21st. Yeah. It looks cool. It does look pretty cool. What's an OP lazy button build? Well, I'm going to have one button in this build, because that's what Spriggan Form builds do. build some movement speed. Don't use movement skills. Hop around with evade. And hope that you don't feel too bad about it. I don't know. I think this will be fun. I'll see you on the 21st. Have a good one.